Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. Hope you're well. I'm just doing this video to provide some information for people to think about. The last video that I uploaded was in regards to the chemtrail, and it just seems like as we are in this era of scientific zealotry, that people who just want everything proven with their eyes or through science is going to be highly disappointed because there are limitations in this intellectual model that we're currently operating in. Spirit always trumps logic. It trumps everything in that sense. So, it's like the purpose of why I do these videos is for people to think about things, research stuff, come to your own conclusions. I don't ask for donations. I don't ask for money. I do this all in my spare time. I don't ask for your emails to get sucked into, another newsletter that I'm sure we're all signed up on, way too many of them. But as I was thinking about this eclipse, I saw this video that kind of explained things really well. So whether you're a little more atheistic or you're exploring, or maybe, you've always been mystical and spiritual, but you're still exploring, like what is going on today, I hope that some of this kind of helps you understand some things. So as I've been thinking, I still think about what is going on in Hawaii, like what happened to those kids. That happened on August 8th. Today is April 8th that we have the eclipse. And if you do August 8th to April 8th, if you just count September 8th, October 8th, November 8th, December, then we have January, February, March, April. That's the 8th month. So we are talking about, this combination of numbering from an 888 perspective. And in the occultic world, all of this stuff has meaning. People say that the numbers in the Bible have meaning as well. I don't know, 888 in terms of what I've learned in the spiritual stuff when I used to swim in that world was always just more linked up to like abundance and more positive things. As I've, you go through even some gematria, where when Christ says, I am the life, if you look at the numbering adding up, so each number is coordinated to each letter is coordinated to a certain number, and you can add it all up. I don't really know a lot about this stuff. I've known a little bit more on numerology, and some of this stuff can go pretty far out that I don't have like the understanding on. But even Jesus is crucified on the cross by the 3 nails, with the numerical value of the word nails in Greek is 888. And so as we're in this rebirth season, the resurrection, it just seems so very interesting that this eclipse has happened kind of around Easter, in the resurrection season. And then we also, it's 8 months after a big prominent event that happened in Hawaii. Maybe this is all a stretch, but it just makes me wonder, because if you do know anything about occultism, or if you've started to learn a little bit more on like Satanism, Luciferianism, this all has symbolism. Numbers, the movement of the sky, how we determine when Easter is related, it all has symbolism. So generally when darkness takes over through a full eclipse, like what has occurred today, that is a very big ritual time for the dark occultists. And so as somebody who used to do like Reiki, I still teach yoga, but it was like my form of swimming in energy was always like Reiki, yoga, and meditation. And I remember like seeing a lot of my quote unquote, I don't know if you'd call them, like they believed in Wicca, so some of them might identify like kind of witchy and stuff like that. They were always doing these like rituals, and it's the full moon and it's this, so we gotta do do some like ritual. Then, and if you Google this stuff, like what to do on the eclipse, you'll Google like witches and eclipse, And so you'll see an article pop up in New Jersey about how these New Jersey witches are doing these rituals for abundance and finding new love in a relationship. And so I don't think people really understand what they're doing or who they're paying homage to. And I can only say from my own personal life experience is like the more I swam in energy, the more ungrounded a lot of my life was, and these things kind of became an addiction over time. But anyways, this might even have like nothing to do with what the point of this video is, but I uploaded that other video that I saw off a Telegram that talked about the Devil's Comet, and I thought, well, that's a really, in the occult world, like if you can switch your lens of frame of mind, many good-hearted Christians don't also really know about this darker side of life. But when, with that comet having placed, through the historical parts of 1812, it kind of like struck a chord to make me think about or remember like what happened in the year of 1812. Because the only thing I could remember from social studies, I remember being in high school, which a lot of our childhoods are a fog because of watching too much television and eating, junkier food and candy and things like that, that the one war that I always remembered was the War of 1812. And so when you look at this combination of when this Devil's Comet was discovered on top of what has occurred in the year of 1812 between some treaties in Paris, we have the War of 1812, the Napoleonic War. You can scroll through even just basic stuff on Wikipedia to find more. And actually what I kind of find is like really funny is Fernando Wood was an American politician who was a second-time mayor of New York. And I mean, do we need to explain? Do we need to explain that? So if you are not familiar on the history of what Masonry is, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. If you're not familiar, your founding fathers of this country were Masons. This is readily available on pretty much any Freemasonry site. You can type it in, Ben Franklin Freemason, George Washington Freemason. So America has been established by the Masons, who are these occultists. Back in Europe, if I'm missing anything or if I have missaid anything, you're welcome to comment below. Oopsies. Sorry, I'm going to cover that here. You're welcome to comment below, because I'm, a lot of the stuff I've read about like years ago, and I'm trying to just rehash everything from memory. But the Masons were called the stonemasons in Europe, and they were predominantly hired by the Catholic Church to build the churches. Obviously, the Masons are the builders. And so, if you've been to a Catholic church, you're like, wow, these are pretty incredible pieces. Now, this is the part of history that we know. There could be other parts of history that we don't know. I cannot remember if it was from the Crusades or something specifically happening within the Catholic Church, but there was not really necessarily a need for a lot of buildings. So what you had at the time was the Jewish corporateers who were starting to run businesses in Europe. Basically, a lot of what we know as corporations today started hiring a lot of the Masons. They were predominantly only allowed to be hired by the Vatican or the Catholic churches. Once again, if I've missaid anything, please correct me below, because I'm just thinking about historical things that I read years ago. Like this is probably like 2022. So at that point in time in Europe, it might have been around like the 1700s. That is where the first, let's say, infiltration of the Jewish central banking corporate tier money-driven individuals have gotten their hands into Masonry. And then we have a lot of the American Revolution at this time. The one thing I want you to understand, or people, if you're not fully understanding, is that in some ways, yes, we have been living in a Christian-based nation, which has slowly been tearing ourselves apart. You know, the family nucleus that was pretty strong bonded from the 1950s and earlier were the heavy migrations were from people who had very strong Christian roots. However, the occultist satanic roots of this country have been set in stone to destroy the family nucleus, destroy Christian principles or the Christian roots foundation that we have, to set the stage for the occultists' NWO golden age era. Okay, that may or may not have made sense for you, but what I want to reiterate is that the foundations of this country have been created by Masons and occultists. I don't know, I haven't delved into the subject much of like if George Washington or anybody was a good Mason, you know, part of the light side. Those things I don't know. But what I do want to say is that part of the freedom of religion in America has been established to where when the satanic ones get their NWO life established, they will be protected under the religious freedom of this country that will give them the right to do their rituals and sacrifice, protected by the law of freedom of religion. The NWO is considered the golden age for the satanic ones. So what we are seeing as dark times, they are seeing as the opportunity for the light times. Now we have these two timelines kind of happening right now where people are awakening, they're getting themselves, you know, out of the entanglements of the system. And then you also have people who are, you know, especially like a lot of the progressive atheists who are stuck in trauma victim mode. They're all jabbed up. They are fulfilling their little soldiers for the NWO. So if you kind of understand some general basic roots of Masonry from Europe moving into America, understanding who is, you know, your current central bankers, your CEOs of all these major companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, you can better understand the foundations. So, and if you just, which one is it? Oh, not that one. If you just type in like Eclipse plus the Rolling Stone, I don't even know if I can open this, but you know, all of these, they're calling them a conspiracy, which is basically just talking about rituals and sacrifice, which I don't even know how that could even be considered a conspiracy, considering some religions to this day still sacrifice animals. I think it's something in Islam, right? When after Ramadan or after some fasting, they sacrifice a goat. So, you know, these sacrifices kind of have been a part of every religion. And the whole point of the New Testament was that there was no need to sacrifice any other animal. You know, Christ's message was all about love and compassion. Christ wasn't an animal abuser. He wasn't butchering up a bunch of fucking dogs and cows for jibby jabs to get injected into an infant that came right out of the womb. His message was all about having faith in God. So the funniest thing is, like, when you look at propaganda, I think you can only read like one article from Rolling Stones before they block you. But the funniest part about this, when you have awakened eyes, is that let's click out of that. Where is it? I think it's down further. The Gnostic Brotherhood. Oh yeah, I don't know exactly who my Rothschilds is, but they quote a Rothschilds. I mean, you have to be like clearly unaware of anything that's going on in order to believe a quote from a Rothschild. I mean, wow, it's yeah, I mean, he just, you know, they're pretty much saying that brain rotted, terminally online people are obsessed with the eclipse. And so when you have this type of language that is being presented through a lot of liberal media, and then you see a bunch of atheists just spewing a bunch of garbage out to anybody who opposes anything that they believe in. It's just like, it's this adult child infantile mindset that's just about like name calling and finger pointing. So like what Rothschild says, if you're going to believe him, is weird theories and superstitions around cosmic events like eclipses. People don't believe, or sorry, because people don't understand science and how anything works. I do say that probably some of the more hardcore theories that have come about, like if people think like the world is going to end or some asteroid's going to bomb into the earth on this eclipse day, I think that is bullshit, and it's probably ran by some of the darker ones. So anyways, that video that I posted on the Devil's comment, this person on Telegram explained this really well. And so this comes from the channel Awakened Species, which is, why has there been spread of hysteria and madness in the media because of the solar eclipse? I'll explain the importance of this solar eclipse and plan that has been in the making for centuries. The story goes back to the creators of the USA as the New Atlantis. It's a 300-year-old concept that they want to come to life, because the idea of the Masonic founding of the USA is exactly that, to create that utopia for them, on whose head will be wise men, the Sanhedrin, that will inaugurate the beginning of the Golden Age. So as we had Christ enter, I'm just pausing on reading this for a second, as Christ entered 2,000 years ago, this ushering of the Golden Age is the Antichrist. So this will be the person who will deceive a lot of individuals. They probably will be enchanting or charming in some ways. They'll probably talk about unity, which is unity and brotherhood are two really big buzzwords in the description of what the Aquarian energy or the Aquarian person is. If you just look up type in like concepts or description of Aquarius, and they always give you they give you certain words. So Aquarian rules, the Aquarius constellation, zodiac sign, rules philanthropy, it rules brotherhood, unity. So if you know like the big feminism is under Aquarius. So when you start to look at these concepts of Aquarius, you can see how the system has manipulated and turned everything upside down. So for example, I'm an Aquarius female. I know every single female Aquarius that I know, sticking up for men. They're against the system. They have a pretty good bullshit meter to where they see all this crap that's going on and is against it, and is, pro-animal, pro-healthy eating, pro-sunshine, pro-clean water, pro-human movement. They're not retarded. And so, so when you think of things like feminism, you can easily roll your eyes because of what feminism has become. But in reality, I mean, it's just pretty much, I don't want to use the word equality because I've talked about this before. I think it's about fairness. So it's like a lot of Aquarian women are kind of tough cookies. They're the tomboys of the zodiac. So having that little bit of knowledge helps you better understand like the masculinization of women, because the system has taken that energy. Like girls want to play sports, that's fine, but you could still be feminine and play sports. But they've taken that energy and completely brainwashed our society. So anyways, getting back to what we see as this upcoming dark age, the satanic people see as their golden age to be protected with freedom of religion, to do whatever they want. Ritual sacrifice. I mean, we're already seeing it now. You have people are identifying as furries. So it's getting scary in the sense that the indoctrination is getting so deep, because it's perverting the mind and people are developing these black hearts. I mean, look at how many women, witchy women, feminists, they all like, they'll type a message or something on Facebook and it's all followed by a black heart. Like for me, the black heart emoji has absolutely, it's just like, for me, that's a subconscious, like something is a little bit off with this person. Like I mean, maybe they really do just like the color black, but I'm not pinpointing everybody, but you kind of have to wonder, like, there is no purity in a black heart. So our NWO nightmare is the system's golden age. Okay, so as we know, in these past 250 years, we have nothing but total ruin and chaos. Masonic and magical structures of the NWO believe that through numerous rituals, which will make this and the next year by the rulers of the world, which are called verified madmen without quotation marks, who think they are descendants of the Anunnaki. I don't know much about that, but anyways, we'll try to inaugurate the creation of New Atlantis. That's why NASA in its flight projects into space is known for its Masonic symbolism. Remember, they had a whole project called Apollo, aka Apolloan. The essence of this Apollo program was ritual-based because it associates with its Egyptian counterparts Horus. For this solar eclipse, NASA will launch 3 rockets into space, one of which is named Apep. You know from Egyptian mythology, Apep is a mythical snake god who wants to devour the deity Ra, which is the sun. After total darkness, a new sun will be born, which is Horus, the king of the golden age. But story doesn't end here. I have information which is more dangerous. That CERN, which is known for its occultic rituals, was created with the aim of having a black magic function with the help of the Hadron Collider, which will be working full blast today and will be opening portals to the dimensions. And that crazy conception can cost Earth a lot. Astrologers say that the period 7 days before and total eclipse should be taken care of, because in this period, the elements of the black cosmic radiation are greatly increased. So all of this has a lot of worth. You either know it or you don't. So, I mean, here's the thing. If you're if you want to be like 100% science person and you know, because you're a moral atheistic person and you believe that nobody does this, that is, you know, there's no way to change your mind on that. But the one thing that is really important, you can actually find, if you're Christian or you have no clue what the hell is going on, you have to understand there are, in this world of progressive theosophy, which is, in my opinion now, a bunch of bullshit, you have Madame Blavatsky and these spiritualists who have created this Luciferian doctrine have talked about these various races. So you have these 7 root races, and currently we're in the 5th race, the Aryan race, and they're trying to create, well, I'm not going to say they're trying to create. They believe that a new race is coming in the future. So this, you could type this in and find it for yourself and read about all of these. I mean, Rudolf Steiner was, I think, a part of this. He might have broken off. I never really got into the whole Atlantis thing and Lemurian thing because it just didn't really resonate that much. But I am very between the whole like Tatarian, Antarctica thing, stuff happening underground. I'm a lot more like open-minded to these things now. So we are kind of in this. From Madame Blavatsky and the progressive theosophists, their perspective is that we are currently in the 5th root race, which is the Aryan race. Again, you can read about it. There's various sub-races in there. So you have Arabian, Persian, Celts, Teutonic, and they believe that the 6th race is about to come through. It is interesting when you kind of look at this. It's like many individuals of the new subrace will be born in California. And so if you know anything about Hollywood in California, is a mimic off of, is it Hollywood or what is it called? It's a mimic off this lake in Italy. I think I'll have to find it or find the video and post it, or at least figure out how to do some of this. So why this is important, some people think that Okay, so progressive theosophists think that this new race will possess certain psychic powers, and for this pituitary body will be developed. So a lot of spiritual people read that and are like, oh yeah, like we need to ascend, because in some ways we do. We've been eating too much fast food, you know, industrial farming is awful, just the whole government judicial system has been very unfair. The government doesn't work for the people. I don't disagree on us having to ascend ourselves. However, what the question is, the naive person is like, oh yeah, we need to ascend in consciousness. But when you're actually looking at the logistics of what is happening today and what their goal is, we have to ask ourselves, is this happening right? For the betterment of humanity, or are these people brainwashing us for enslavement? If you are not familiar with this guy who was a Mason, supposedly, you need to look him up. I'm not even really going to use the words, because if you type it in Google, it's, you know, it'll tell you that it's some far right bullshit. But anyways, his family roots are aristocratic. He's mixed. He's a mixed race person himself. His father was Greek, or the clergy was a wealthy family from Greek. And then, so his family roots descend from the Byzantine royalty of the Venetian aristocracy, excuse me. That always, like anything aristocratic in Italy should kind of make you raise an eyebrow. And then I think his mother is Japanese, right? I believe so. Is that what that says? Well, anyways, you can read more about it. Yeah. So he created this pan-Europa plan that pretty much is like creating the United States of Europe. One theory within this clergy plan is including mixed races, where you are pretty much integrating the white, the Asian, and the black race. If you know anything about art and you mix all that together, it kind of makes you look olive, and that is what the Egyptians were. So I personally think, when reading this Luciferian, that's a recipe, there you go. When you're reading this Luciferian doctrine, sixth subrace, the question is, are we going to be ascending from the positive side? For example, we're going to exit ourselves out of this money-based system and go more into the conscious kind of bartering thing, where our stores will be free from food that we grow. We'll get out of the city structure will kind of, you know, disintegrate. Or is it the end? Is it the Luciferians in their golden age trying to create their sixth subrace, which will be an integration of various cultures mixed together to easily control them? When I read this a long time ago, before 2020, I was kind of like, you know, more on that innocent side, like, yeah, we need to raise our vibration. And then now, after seeing everything going on and living in Germany, and just even seeing the propaganda, I mean, just look at the television commercials today, and how many commercials have the mixed family. You know, the wife might be Asian, the dad might be black, or, you know, white and black type of thing, or, you know, do you get what I'm saying? So anyways, a lot of this is pushed, and it's forced, and that's where you have to understand that force is the lowest form of consciousness. When things happen naturally, like I met a girl who was part of the yoga retreat that I catered in 2018. And she was from Mexico, and that's a very emotional, vibrant, warm culture, right? She loved Japan. There was a part of her that had to go to Japan. Her soul was resonating. I have to go to Japan. She loved Japan so much. She ended up living there. And if you think about the structure of the language of Japanese, it's similar to German. It's a very different structure. So it uses more of your logical side of the brain. So, anyways, she loved everything about Japanese culture, and that is kind of like a very big different mix, but it happens naturally because it's a soul's resonance. It's not forced like the government, like Obama and Biden bombing the fuck out of Syria and then forcing them to migrate, or starting some shit in the Ukraine, forcing the Ukrainians out, and then selling that real estate for super cheap, and that's promoted in Jewish news. And who are your builders? Who are these, masons? Who are the ones with the load of cash that can buy up all of this land? Who are the ones that are bombing the shit out of Palestine and forcing people to suffer? So I don't know if we really are entering an age where the human will be a mix of all these ethnic groups for possessing psychic powers. That in itself is a God complex. Narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy all have one thing in common, and it is people who have the God complex, who think they are God and that they're higher than God. So things like these eclipses are not one to be celebrating. They're one to be saying a prayer and hoping the Christ or God or christened hearts and energy can go out, because what has happened to those children in Hawaii? I don't know. There's just so much symbolism. You can go nuts trying to figure all this out, but this establishment, we can think about things like, oh, America, like we are really, compared to the rest of the world, we are very lucky. We have not been bombarded as much as Canada and Australia has been with mandates, but we don't have culture today. What is our culture? Watching television, shopping, eating. I mean, these are all very much satanic things, where probably the people who immigrated here in the 17 and 1800s probably had a more authentic American experience when there was land and you can farm and cultivate a family and a community. The church was a big prominent thing at the time, and I'm not saying that the church and religion is 100% good. I'm just saying these principles that we've been taught are like, do we even live in a Christian-based nation anymore, or do we live in a satanic-based nation? Because it kind of seems like we live more in a satanic-based nation, between the gluttony, the technology, the laziness, the meanness, pointing, whatever. Anyways, this has been long enough. Thank you for listening, and have a great one. Bye-bye.